The best is if we share a pillow.
The best is yet to come. They won't be found. The best is yet to come.
Sex positive culture.
It's my body to give.
Are threesome gifts a thing?
Taking a bra off.
I like your bed.
Horizontal.
This is Horizontal with Lila.
I'm Lila, and I am lazy and horizontal.
I'm Josh, and I am comfily horizontal with Lila.
It is quite cozy.
I love the sound of the rain.
Welcome into Horizontal, the podcast about intimacy that's recorded while the opposite of vertical. My guest and I wear cozy robes and lie down shoulder to shoulder with the microphone positioned above us. It's as though we've talked all night and we're still stargazing, but the sun is just starting to make itself known in yellows and oranges around the horizon. Horizontal aims to make private conversations public in order to dispel shame, diminish loneliness, and cultivate connection. In this episode, I lie down with my friend Josh. Josh and I met at circling, which is a sort of inter-relational meditation. Whereas in meditation with oneself, I might sit silently with my eyes closed, observing my internal landscape, the sensations in my body, my thought clouds as they pass, and my hamster-wheel thoughts as they come back around. In circling, I have my attention not only on myself, but also on the others around me, how their presence and the shifts in the room affect me, the stories I make up about them, sometimes thought of as assumptions, and what I imagine about their internal landscapes. In circling, I try to hold an awareness of myself while also endeavoring to be deeply present with the others. When it's done right, it seems to me to be a practice of deep empathy, both for what it might feel like to be someone else, but also empathy and a certain kind of respect for what it feels like to be me in the moment. A reverence for the truth of the moment. So that is the context in which Josh and I met. And at first I had the story that Josh didn't really like me very much. It is a vibe I sometimes get from particular gay men and from pretty, unkind women. I've never asked him how he felt when we first met, but I was delighted to learn when he hugged me some months into circling together at Amy Silverman's Connection Movement nights in New York City, that he has a positive regard for me. Josh is a fashion design trained, floridly creative visual artist of many mediums, baker, cook, and new circling facilitator. In circling, he acts as an emotional lightning rod and visionary. He often expresses through sound, vibrations, and sometimes convulsions, emotions that feel present in the room, but latent, that others are either unwilling to express or perhaps unaware they exist. When I say that he is a visionary circler, I mean that he literally has visions. He'll often have his eyes closed, and when he opens them, he sometimes shares the images that came to him during someone's expression. There's usually something uncanny and relevant about it. Sometimes an object in the image is meaningful to the person. At other times, he seems to intuit what they desire in the moment, but haven't thought to ask for. I often feel awe when he describes these images, and hearing him so bold with his associations has opened a gate for me to be bolder with mine. We recorded this episode in his trailer at the Omega Institute, an expensive spiritual adult version of short-term sleepaway camp. Josh was towards the tail end of his work commitment there when I came to visit. I arrived late and tired. He had actually fallen asleep, so I took a nap in the car in the parking lot. And we decided to record in the morning, during a rainstorm. The pitter-patter of the rain on the tin trailer is a sweet lulling to me. I won't be offended if you fall asleep. I'll never know. If you enjoy lying down with us, become a patron of the Horizontal Arts. Patreon is a website for crowdsourcing patronage, and it can allow artists like me to continue to make independent, uncensored, and ad-free, which is really what I'd prefer, work. There are delicious perks when you sign up to be my patron. Sometimes you might get recorded lullabies. At other times, love poems. There's handwritten love notes and an invitation to join a private, Lila-curated Facebook group. Check it out on patreon.com/horizontal with Lila. That's patreon.com/horizontal with Lila. I'm working towards having my patronage cover my editing fees. That would be so delightful. In the first half of our episode together, Josh and I talk about unintentional celibacy, Josh's first gay stirrings, spandex guy, the right vegetables to put up your butt, and porn energy work. For some of my favorite yoga people who have been asking me, which episode of Horizontal is the gayest? Get ready. It is this one. Here, I'll prove it. Come lie down with us. We are horizontal in a camper?
Trailer.
In a trailer?
Yes, technically speaking.
At the Omega Institute.
Hey.
And you have a sort of above window altar that we're looking at.
Yeah.
Maybe I should just snap a little photo of that just to have that. And it is raining. It is pouring.
It is raining on the tin can.
Raining on the tin can. We got up and did yoga, and we had breakfast.
We did. This is true. And now what? And then we just fall asleep, and that's Thank you for listening. Please tune in next
And it's
time.
just like ASMR rain. Just rain for 2 hours.
What's happened? Are they still there?
It'll make my editing job so easy. So you've been here for almost 6 months. Working.
I've been here for a little over 5 months, yeah.
Has that been a sexless 5 months?
I mean, it's been a sexless 5 years, so I did give a blowjob in the sauna to a participant. That's about the most sex I've had in 5 years, though.
That sounds hot, but temperature-wise.
It was hot, but I didn't, I don't know. I guess I found because, you're all, sort of opened up and everything, there was less gag reflex. So it was easier on that note. Also, I hadn't sucked a dick in 5 years, so. But.
Why?
Why has it been so long? I've held the story and I'm wanting to let go of it, but I don't think that I'm quite there yet. That my sexuality is just a broken thing in my life, and that it doesn't work, and that when I try, I usually just end up being disappointed. So I've spent many years. It has been a pattern in my life that I can go, 5, 6, I think I've 7 years in my 20s without so much as like a physical contact, really. That doesn't feel good. It's nice now that I have practices that bring more intimacy with people. So I get cuddling and, I get physical intimacy in that way.
Yeah. Like circling?
More so than I did in the past. Yeah. Like circling. And then this kind of community is, there's also a lot of cuddle parties and things like that. So just being in any sort of intentional community setting, I find that there tends to be more of an awareness around the need for physical connection and more of
A comfort with platonic touch, perhaps?
yeah. So I do find that I have more of that, and I find I miss sexuality less because of that. Or, well, no, that's not true.
But maybe it makes it easier to be a person.
Sexuality, I don't miss it less. It's just the hardest part about going that amount of time without any sex in my life is not so much the sex or the sexual stimulation. Like the absence of that is tolerable. I don't know, that's sounds like an awful word.
You can tolerate it. I get it.
But the hardest part is usually just not having the physical contact and feeling that tenderness is absent from my life. So
It surprises me because I experience you as such a sensual person. And it seems to me like sometimes you'll be circling and some sort of energy will course through you, and it strikes me as very sensual and sometimes sexual, like moving these energies through your body where you kind of convulse and shake and
yeah.
and I imagine that you could express that beautifully through sexuality.
I imagine that a lot of the work that I've done in the past 3 years through meditation and circling and, let's say, conscious thought, I imagine that my experience in sex would be a lot different than it was in the past, and that I feel like I would connect more to the physical act of sex than I have in the past.
What has happened in the past? Do you dissociate?
It's very hard it's one of the biggest areas in my life that it's very difficult for me to actually be present in the moment. I have noticed that I've worked on this a lot with myself, but I've noticed even in masturbation, there's something somewhere in my head that is saying, like, if there's an erection, then ejaculation needs to have, like, there's a goal and you need to get there.
Yeah.
And if you don't have an erection, then there's something wrong because you're not going to be able to meet that goal. And so my experience in the past has often been, I'm very sensual, very sexual. I can be very present in feelings and sensations. And I guess I would say I imagine that my penis doesn't remove itself from the goal of ejaculation. So my penis doesn't involve itself in that sensuality.
Hmm. Mm.
'Which isn't, I don't know, Is that true? Yeah. Which isn't really so much of a problem for me. I guess I just haven't figured out how to. I haven't figured out how to communicate my sexual experience to other people so that if I don't get an erection, that doesn't deter people. Because everyone seems to think that I don't know. My experience in having sex with men and not getting an erection is that there's not a repeat of that because they feel like I'm not.
That into
There's
it.
something wrong, and that I'm not. Yeah, which is not the case. It's just that I don't know.
I've had that experience on the other side of it.
Yeah.
There was a show that came to shoot at the house, and it hasn't been released. And on that show was a sound guy that I took a liking to. It was cute. And I wound up kind of lingering in. We were in Kenneth's room, which has a mega bed, which is two queen size beds put together to make one enormous mega bed. And we were in his room and we are having sort of like a cuddle hang that they were shooting with my friend Megan Tonjes, who has an episode. She was the host. And after that conversation kind of concluded, they were basically wrapping up, and one by one everybody left the room, and Megan left the room, and the sound guy was still fiddling with his things and lingering, and I lingered, and I kind of drew him into the bathroom and kissed him. And he was like, "Don't get me fired." And I said, I won't. And then we exchanged numbers, and we had 2 dates, both at his apartment. And he cooked for me, and it was really sweet and lovely. And he had a grown-up person's apartment, which is very enjoyable in New York, as a lot of people do not live in grown-up ways. And we were kissing, we were caressing, and I think he was hard. And then when the time came to penetrate me, he wasn't. And I was okay with it. I said, I'm enjoying myself. Let's just continue enjoying. But he was so freaked out. He was so freaked out and uncomfortable, ashamed, concerned. And I was truly all right. But he didn't believe me, or his discomfort didn't have room to recognize the fact that I was not uncomfortable. And that I was still enjoying myself, and I was happy to be there. And so we didn't continue. He didn't wind up using his hands or his tongue. Like, he didn't continue because of it. And he apologized, and I said, it's all right. And he said, I have been a few months out of a long-term relationship, and we weren't using condoms. And that's really common from what I found out later, that when somebody's been fluid bonded for a long time, they're out of practice with using condoms, they're not associating maybe pleasure with the experience of having a condom on.
Right.
And there's someone I know who recommends that men practice masturbating with a condom on after not using it for a long time, so that they can get back into that.
Makes sense.
And there was no way that I was going to have sex with him without a condom.
I think I have done that at some periods in my life. Practice with a condom, because I felt like that could be part of the issue as well.
Do you think it was for you?
Because I know it's more of a mental thing. I think that has something to do with it, but it doesn't really, like in the blowjob in the sauna, I felt really good that I didn't get an erection, and I didn't care, and I wasn't apologizing, and he was like, oh, what about, and I'm like, don't even worry about it. It's totally fine. Like, honestly, like, I got to kiss him, and that was like
the best.
For me, it was just like, oh my God, I did not realize. I knew I was wanting like sexuality in my life, but I didn't realize how much I missed kissing until I was kissing somebody, and then I was like, oh,
Kissing's the best. Yeah.
and then it was
Yeah.
really fun to give a blowjob and just enjoy it and not, yeah. And I mean, honestly, it was just like super quick because he was like all excited, but and then it was just, yeah, he was done, and he went and took a shower, and he was like, I'm sorry, we didn't. I was like, no, it's no big deal. And afterwards, I even told him when we were getting dressed that that was the most like sexual contact that I'd had in 5 years.
How do you respond?
He said that he felt honored and that that seemed like a big deal. And I know that he has a boyfriend, some in New York, I think is where he's from. But
With some
so
sort
it
of
was
monogamish
right.
situation.
So it was, yeah. He is an open situation of some sort, but I wasn't. It's not like I was looking to make it into anything. But it felt really good that I wasn't shaming myself. I didn't care.
Yeah.
Like the erection didn't matter, and if I had it, I had it, and if I didn't, I didn't. But it wasn't really about that in that moment, and that was okay. And whatever he thought about that was whatever he thought about that. But I wasn't in my own head about that, and that felt good.
That's excellent. This guy was completely in his head about it. I mean, I could almost see him crawl up
Yeah.
inside his head.
No, I've
And
been there.
he was no longer with me.
Yeah.
We were no longer connecting. And I spent the night, and he got up early to go work on a shoot, and I made myself breakfast and let myself out, and then we had a date again. I think it was the next week. And the same thing happened. And he said, ah. And he said, well, you're probably the best person that this could happen with. Probably the most understanding
Right.
type of person. And then he never contacted me again.
Aww.
And then maybe a year back or something, he sent me a Facebook friend request. No. No.
Not having
no
it.
Message, no call, no sorry for ghosting. I was embarrassed. No honest connection. No. And I felt for him. I really did. But the person who's unwilling to communicate about that and is so that their response is to shut down and shut you out, that's not a healthy person for me to be engaging with.
Yeah. I can see that.
So,
Yeah, lately I've discovered. So part of what I've been doing here was I went through energy healing training, and I've become a Reiki master and, attuned to level 6 of what's called magical awakening, which is a different form of energy healing. And
can you do something for my fatigue?
Maybe I could try. And lately I have been doing a lot of Reiki on my penis and my balls.
That's beautiful.
And instead of masturbating, I've been watching, because I think I have a little bit of an issue with porn probably, but I've been watching porn, and instead of masturbating, I've just been doing energy work while I watch the porn. And your penis responds, like I get an erection, like all of that stuff from the energy, because I'm moving sort of this sexual energy through it.
Can you take me through that?
And that's been really interesting.
Process?
Through the process?
So you choose a video.
Yeah.
You're watching on your phone?
I use my computer, and I usually just use Pornhub, which is a mess. Yeah. So I find a video that I want to watch, and I lay down and
Does it follow a typical pattern, what you watch?
yes, I guess pornographically speaking, I like raw, more aggressive porn. More passionate porn. I don't like people, I don't like to watch people being degraded, but I like the sounds of sex turn me on a lot more than. No, that's not true. But the sounds of sex are a huge stimulant for me. And so I like to watch more aggressive porn because I find that the bottoms are usually more vocal and connected to what's happening instead of just like, oh yeah, oh yeah, give it to me.
Have you ever tried just listening to it?
Just listening to sex, to
Yeah,
porn.
listening to porn and doing your energy work?
Not for a whole video, but I certainly have. I do close my eyes for a while and just listen.
As you're watching, do you put yourself in the place of one of the actors? Imagining that you are one of the actors?
No. No, I think it's interesting. I think watching porn for me seems very separate from the act of sex because I don't feel like I'm stimulated by the visual.
So you are as a voyeur in the situation.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm more stimulated by watching what others are doing.
Are you voyeuristic in general? Have you gotten to explore that?
I've never gotten to explore that, but I imagine that yes, I am.
I am a little
I
bit as
believe
well.
that that would be. I know that I am not. I don't have a lot of jealousy or anything like that, and so I've certainly been more prone to having an open relationship. And in the past, that's just meant that that partners do things with other people and we're open and honest about it, but it's never progressed to a point where we were doing stuff together or that they were doing it with someone else and I could watch. But I do think that that would be appealing.
That should go on the bucket list.
Yeah.
At least as something to check out.
Uh-huh.
I don't know if it's something
Oh,
that
there's
you'll
lots of sexual
want to do
stuff
all the
that
time.
I want. But
So you've chosen a
list.
video and you put it on the computer and you sit down, and then what is the process of this energy work?
I usually just start by like really checking in with the pubic area, the main access point for the root chakra, I guess. I usually start there, right above.
You mean in the perineum?
Yeah, like your pubic area, like right above your genitals.
Okay.
So it's like, yeah.
Above the pubic bone.
Right. And then I usually just start by putting energy there because that's a lot of, and then, I don't know, there's a lot of cupping of the balls. There's a lot of energy going to the balls. And as stimulation starts, I will then just sort of like hold on to the penis, the shaft, but not really so much. Like I'll just like, and just hold.
Two hands.
Just hold it with two
curled
hands
around.
and feel the energy flowing. And then there's other sort of energy points below, like, let's say below the balls, the top of the taint, sort of. So like tucking in, I guess more towards where the perineum would be, right?
Mm-hmm. And when you say that you're connecting to the energy that's flowing, what's the process of that? Are you imagining a current? Are you imagining something? Are you...
Oh no, there's physical sensations that I feel. So it's an interesting process when you're giving yourself energy work because you can feel an outside energy coming in through you and coming out of your hands, but you can also feel how your body is responding to that energy, which you can't do when you are working on someone else. So you get a lot of information all at once because you're getting a sense of the quality of the energy that's coming through, and then you're also getting a sense of the quality of how your body's responding.
That's interesting. That reminds me of when I was younger, I would do a little thought exercise where I would run my fingertips along the soft part of my arm
Mm-hmm.
and I would try to feel it from the fingers perspective and then from the arms perspective.
Right. Yes. Same thing. Definitely. Yeah. So it's pretty much the same in all energy work. For me, what I've noticed is if I start with my hand on the body, by putting my hand on the body and in the place of energy work, I can begin to feel with my hand what the energy of the other, so whether it's my body or another person, I can feel more what, so I'm starting out by sort of feeling outside of myself and feeling what do I feel through my hand from the other person or from my body part if I'm doing it on myself. So when it's on someone else, there's a, feels like there's energy coming at the hand. It feels like by putting my hand there, I'm imagining sort of the, right now I have my hand on Lila's knee and I'm imagining that what I feel, it feels like there's energy coming from the hip that is coming up the leg and towards my palm. And I can feel energy also coming from the ankle. So everything is sort of moving towards that. And just by sort of being in that flow, I guess, being open and in that flow, I can start to get a sense of quality of what's flowing towards me. And then as that sensation strengthens and the feeling becomes bigger, there's a point, and I can feel it right now, where the energy that's coming out starts to get bigger, like the response. And then when that happens, I can actually just pull away. I don't need to be touching anymore, because I've noticed that when the energy is actually coming out and doing more of a flow and a healing, that actually is stronger when I'm not physically touching.
If you're trying to release energy?
Yeah, if you're just allowing an open flow of energy so that whatever healing needs to happen is happening like through you. Now, I guess I would say I've noticed when doing it as a sexual sort of healing or a replacement for masturbation, even, I do it all hands on because you're getting more of the physical touch as well, and that's stimulating, obviously. So I don't tend to remove my hand from the situation, but I do think it starts the same in really more of putting my hand in different places, and there's more of a listening that's happening with the hand in terms of what energy is coming at my hand. And then as there becomes more of a familiarity with what it is I'm experiencing in that energy, then I'm able to back off a little and allow energy to come through the other way It seems, yeah, it's like there's an energy shift. It feels like it starts coming out and it's more of an information gathering. And then once that builds to a point where it feels like there's something to meet, then there's an energy shift and the energy starts moving the other direction.
It sounds like you are
I think.
stoking the arousal and then just kind of using it to light you up rather than taking it to a peak and dropping down.
Yeah.
Sort of like what I know very little, but what I know of Taoist sexual practices.
Well, I've noticed doing this way that there certainly is still, while there isn't I wouldn't say, there doesn't feel like there's a point of release as there is when you ejaculate, but it feels like the energy builds up to a point and then it's done and it just dissipates.
And how do you feel afterwards?
And I just know, like, basically it can be hard and it's going, and then suddenly it's just like, okay, and now we're done, and everything goes away. And then afterwards I feel usually very energized, much more awake in the chakra areas of the root and sexual. I can feel often, well, that's not fair. That's because I was also sticking a cucumber up my ass, but
Wait, what were you gonna say about it?
That I can feel more of an awakeness of my prostate inside. Like I can feel what the inside of my body feels more like.
Right, but
So-
you were
so
stimulating.
I've been
it, so
doing
you're...
that too, but yeah.
A cucumber,
Mm-hmm.
a big cucumber,
I mean, I have it.
a
But
little
Still.
cucumber.
It's a good sized cucumber.
Oh my god. Oh my. Oh yikes. Wow. Oh boy.
It feels good.
I have very little experience in anal play and not a ton of interest. I have enjoyed a finger, not deep, but one, and I tried having anal sex once and it just felt terrible. It didn't hurt. We used lube and went slow and everything, but it just didn't feel good. And I think it's really a lot that I've had GI problems, digestive problems for most of my life. So my association with that area is not really very positive. And I think until I get my system to be working well, as it's meant to be, my elimination system to be working well, it's probably not going to be an interest for me. That was a big cucumber.
I think well, I mean, I started cucumbers when I was like 12. So, well,
Tell me about that.
13.
How'd you figure that out? Because I never looked at
old
something
was I
as a
then?
kid and thought I could stick that up my butt. But I feel like a lot of people did. A lot of people did.
I guess I was around 12 and I started seeing, I found, they don't send this anymore, but it used to be common practice that they would send like pornography advertisements in the mail. And so you would get this brochure that had, it was like a list of like 100 different, it was just the main shots of like each video, right?
No.
And it was like, there were tiny little pictures like this on a page, and you would have like 100 little pictures of pornography.
You need a magnifying glass.
And somebody threw it out or something. I found it in the dumpster of an apartment building that I was living in. And I kept that thing for probably a year or two, I think, or maybe even longer. But that was my first like pornography. And then, yeah, just looking at these tiny little thumbnails and figuring out what they were doing. I don't know. There seems there's not much of a
Was there a cucumber involved in one of the photos?
no.
But somebody was sticking
How did
something
that
up their
happen?
butt.
I guess that was a little later. Yeah. There was that, and then I got to high school, and there was the first boy that I knew was gay, and I wasn't really interested in him, but I wanted to see what all that was, so I did stuff with him. And he was always talking about a banana. He said that works really well, and I thought he was stupid. Because I was like, why would you stick a banana's just gonna like explode in your like that
doesn't seem like a good idea.
doesn't make sense at all.
No bananas.
So a cucumber would be a lot more logical.
Okay.
Yeah, I just would look in the fridge and be like, I did corn on the cob, I did cucumber, I've done carrots.
Did you peeled the corn on the cob first or no?
Oh no.
No.
I put
Just with the
back then
husk
I would
on.
put a condom on it, but oh yeah,
did
peeled with the yeah, so it's like ribbed for her pleasure. His
Except
pleasure.
ribbed for his pleasure in this case. And
Corn on the cob, man.
amazing.
Cucumber or zucchini are really the best though.
And do you have sex ed in health class so you knew about condoms?
Yes.
Did you have any sex ed from your parents?
Yeah, I don't really remember a time where I didn't know what sex was. Like that actually, I don't remember like an understanding of. My mom taught sex ed when I was a very young kid, like 3 or 4 years old. She was teaching sex ed. She says that she explained this stuff to us when we were little before, and so that she started this dialogue. I remember friends finding out what sex was, and I remember that conversation starting amongst my peers, and I was just like, oh, you don't, that's silly, of course that's not what it is, you don't know what it is. Like I just knew. I don't know how I don't remember a time when I didn't know. So
And how far back do your memories go?
my memories are very spotty, but I would say about 4.
I prefer selective.
Yeah, I would say
My memory is selective.
I would say around 4, but there's it's certainly very just like very pinpointed moments. I certainly don't have a photographic memory of my life.
What is your earliest memory of having desire for a boy?
Well, there's 2. The one that was earlier, but I didn't notice, I didn't register it as that at the time, I guess I would say. And that was probably around 13 when I was very into Growing Pains, the TV show. And later in the series, when Leonardo DiCaprio, as a young teenager, joined the cast as a teen runaway, that Mike Seaver was now a teacher, and he takes him in, and he lives in the house with all the family. And when he came on the show, I remember being very excited. I didn't quite understand why I found him so interesting at the time, but I remember young Leonardo DiCaprio definitely stimulated that for me.
And for a legion
and for
of
many
people in our generation. Oh, Leonardo DiCaprio, if you're listening.
if you're listening. I don't feel the same way now. Sorry.
I still do. I still do, Leo.
He bores me now, but back then, the moment where it came into my own consciousness, I was on the bus going to school or something. I took the city bus everywhere. I was 14, and a guy in spandex got I don't think they do this anymore, but basically you would put the bike, there was a rack for the bike on the front of the bus.
Yeah, I think they still have that in some places.
Yeah, so he put the bike on the rack, and then he came on, and he was in his spandex biking outfit. And I was on the bus, and I just looked up, and I just remember thinking, damn, that guy is hot. And then went, wait, what? And then thought, huh, well, that's interesting. I should look into that if I think that men are attractive. And that was pretty much it. But that was the first noticing of sexual desire for a man.
Did you also find women sexually desirable?
No.
So it was your sexual awakening.
Actually, hold on. Did I had an obsession with Annie McDowell. I thought she was beautiful. I had many photographs of her plastered around my room. Yeah, I don't think I had sexual feelings for her. I dated girls from early on, from the age of like 6 or so.
You were dating at 6?
I mean, not dating, but
okay, but like holding hands.
Yeah. Stuff. And then I had girlfriends growing up. And what I noticed after that guy got on the bus, what I noticed after that was that as I began paying attention to how I was looking at men versus how I was looking at women, or boys versus girls, really, but I noticed that during those relationships that I had love for these girls and I wanted to be intimate and close and like cuddle and kiss, but there was no thought of sex at all. Like that never even occurred to me with girls. And with guys, that's all I could think of.
Here's the part of the episode where I give credit where credit is most certainly due. This episode was edited by Chad Michael Snavely. Peruse Chad's other podcasts on chadmichael.com. My delectable cover art is by the illustrator Shauna Shea, whom you can hire through 99 Designs. She's a pleasure to work with. Horizontal's theme music is by Alan Markley, rock star and newly minted dad. You can find him on Instagram as Plastic Cannons. Every week, I'm reading one of my thoughtful, well-worded 5-star reviews in gratitude. This one is by Seal Dan, and it's titled Intimacy, Sexuality. Lila's podcast is unique in its inherently intimate feel, and having guests lie down with her while having conversations that explore some of the soft inner bellies of the human experience. Yes, guests share their stories regarding relationships, sexuality, and topics that many would call taboo, but it's definitely not an interview or even friendly conversational kind of sharing that happens in most, if not all, radio shows and podcasts. I really feel like I got to know each guest as a human being in their richly human and unique experiences, and realized that we're all much more similar and relatable than we think we are. It's not the content alone that has me feel so close to Lila and her guests. It's the way in which it's all shared that has me feel like I'm right next to them, witnessing an intimate conversation that so many of us would normally have in a private, cozy setting, lying next to each other with glasses of wine and fuzzy blankets. Seal Dan, thank you for this. I feel seen. Until next week, dear ones, may you have someone to love, something to do, and something to look forward to. It's been a pleasure lying down in this tin can with you.
Josh is no longer horizontal.
For a moment, he is vertical in the vertical plane. So I'm going to crack my back.